Welcome, everybody, to a late showing of Incubator Weekly today. Had to reschedule for a variety of reasons. We're doing it in the afternoon this time. Welcome, AJ. Got you on for the second time in a row now.
Woohoo!
Yeah. All right. So the last time that we had you on, we had you talking about the application that you wrote for creating proposals in a web browser. And we're going to review that in a minute. But today we have you on talking about how are we going to create a real Dash economy. And that's kind of something that I titled it that. We came together, talked about what we wanted to talk about. We have some ideas about what is it? Well, I'll just ask you the question, like, what do you think that Dash needs in order to create a real Dash economy? I'll just leave it open-ended for now.
I've said this before. It needs an export. It needs something that people want more than they want US dollars, and that they're willing to trade for Dash in order to get. So just like any economy exists because there is some export. No economy in the world today exists in isolation. Mm-hmm. All of them, the oil is priced in US dollars. Essentially our computer chips are priced in Chinese. So different economies have a primary export, and it's something that people are willing to give up some typically fiat currency in order to trade to the other currency to buy that thing.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add to that so far is that we need exports, plural.
Yeah.
And the economy obviously has that. You're just saying primarily economies have, like, countries will have a primary export. But what makes them actual running real economies is that people do perform labor and they create actual products and services, and then they sell those products and services for the money of that economy. And that's actually what creates the economy in a sustainable way. And what we don't have in Dash, what we don't have in crypto widely, I would say, is those export economies where people are actually producing things and then requiring payment in that currency, whatever economy or crypto we're talking about. And it's something
in fact, we have the inverse. We have where people are trading out of cryptocurrency. So, for example, you were talking about an AI tool earlier. Mm-hmm. We've seen this with some of the hosting services, the DigitalOcean wrapper. People are just basically abusing cryptocurrencies and devaluing them by providing something that the merchant doesn't ever have a cryptocurrency. So we're in the cryptocurrency space. The trend is to do the opposite, to raise the price, provide no value, and then immediately put it back into fiat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is something that we all have experience with. For example, I earn Dash for what I do. I try to create as much value as I can for that. I'm just one person, but I'm forced to, for the most part, sell into US dollars because the things that I need are denominated in US dollars. And so we need more people requiring and at least accepting cryptocurrencies, or Dash specifically, for those goods and services. Then I would not have to do that. But in order for people to do that, they need to be able to use this cryptocurrency in a way that's as easy, or ideally way easier, than transacting and using dollars. And so that's where we're going to get into. I'm going to share my screen here. You and me both. We are big believers in the web, the internet, and there are a ton of products and services that are native to the web. And so in theory, it should be super easy to kind of get people to use a digital currency like Dash, at least for web products. But what's the problem with that initially while I get my screen share going? If you
I
were a
think
merchant, could you
the
do it
number
easily?
one, no. And I think that the number one, there's two problems. One, you have to not try to target every merchant. You need to be targeting either new merchants that are developing new products, which would be good because, again, we need an export. So if somebody else can provide the export, great. But we also need things to be web enabled, right? And a lot of the investment funded companies, if you can call them that, that are doing cryptocurrency stuff, they're just collecting a premium in the middle as middlemen, right? The cryptocurrencies are not web native. They're only available on the internet via TCP. They're not available on the web, and
Okay.
Dash falls into that
We will
category too.
talk. Yeah, we'll talk more about that distinction because it's something that we talked about before the show started. But in order to set this up, I wanted to go through. So that is the overall theme: is that you and I, and specifically you with the Digital Cash developer brand here, you're trying to create tools that make it easier for people to do uh, use Dash on the web. And again, like
Yes.
we'll talk about the difference between internet ready and web ready. But before that, I just wanted to briefly go over some overview of what proposals you're suggesting right now, what you have live right now, and what you plan to do. So originally, I was thinking about calling this your roadmap, but because it's not completely fleshed out, I didn't want to call it a roadmap, like the
Right.
Digital Cash Dev roadmap. But it is. We are going to talk about the proposals that you have out right now and which ones you want to propose to the network. So, if we go over to our trusty MNO Watch leaderboard, we see that. I'll do a quick find on the page here so people can see the highlighted proposals here. Digital Cash Dev is your name. You have three proposals, but one of those is kind of defunct. It was a mistake, so you fixed it
Yeah.
here. This one that's down on the bottom, netting minus 28 votes. That's just ignore that, downvote that. This is the fixed version. This is for your RPC web proxy service that you're just basically maintaining, continuing to maintain for 4 Dash per month. And then this is a proposal that I think people are either not happy with or not understanding. So one of the things that we're going to go through is I want you to explain what this proposal is all about, so that people who maybe have misunderstood it can better understand it. And then we'll also talk about we'll review some of the previous proposals that you've done, like Dash Join, which is a coin join implementation that's browser web ready, as well as this Dash proposal project where you have an application that allows people to submit Dash proposals from a web browser as well. But let's go back now to the project that you already have proposed and that you're asking for funding for. That's this web wallet QR code explorer. This link, by the way, is this same link that you've given in this
Yeah.
in the actual proposal. So that's what we're looking at if anybody's curious. It's the same link. So what is this, and how does this help with this overall vision and purpose of being able to give people the ability to use Dash on the web and create um, an economy that's easier to use for, let's say, native web entrepreneurs.
All right. Well, uh, I'm
Or
I'm going to
however,
highlight what?
or however you wanted to tackle that.
Okay, I'm going to highlight a mistake that happened and a big L that we had in Dash Incubator.
Okay.
We had a proposal for a web wallet, and we have not produced a web wallet.
Well, we have, but it's not widely used, and you can go ahead and explain why. But I have some ideas
It's
on that as well.
we did not produce a web wallet that is ready for people to use. We did not produce a web wallet that we can be confident. We we have pieces of a web wallet. We don't have a web wallet. So
Right. I'm gonna
that
bring that up right now, just so
yeah,
we can see what you're talking about. I
yeah,
think it's under wallet
and
dash incubator
I
dev.
I believe that the
This
core
is what you're talking
problem,
about.
yeah, I think there was two core problems here with this project. One was we wanted to get design for it. We knew we wanted to get a design for it, but because the designer was available at the time, we got the designer involved before we had the prototype.
That is true.
And
That's why it looks good.
that right. And the another major issue was that Jojo ran into some sort of chronic illness that he's still struggling with, and so that the project lost some momentum that way. If we
Sure.
want to have a great web wallet experience with any bit of code, the best way to approach it is to make something that is whole and complete, right? Because then at least if you didn't get 100% of everything that you ever wanted it to do, you've got working code and examples of how to do one of the components of it. So one of the key components of a wallet is the ability to look at addresses, be able to load them, be able to sweep them or spend them, and be able to see balances.
Mhm.
And so we don't have a web tool for that. The mobile wallet doesn't do that. We need, as we're developing other applications, the address stuff can be pretty complex. In particular, one of the problems that has never been solved in the Dash core lib is how to do storage. So there's kind of a demo you can do with Dash core lib where it kind of creates a wallet for an instance, and then but you can't effectively use it because there's no way to do storage with it that well, the two problems. One, it doesn't have any built-in storage mechanisms or storage plugins, so you have to, and there's no documentation for it, so you just kind of have to like go find some example somewhere. It's not a good experience. And then also when you're actually building out an application, there's different areas where you need to kind of get into the information. So in my application, I don't necessarily just want to say, hey, what's the next wallet that doesn't have or the next address that doesn't have a balance, because I might want to be able to do things like mark an address that I'm about to use it. So I've asked Freddie to pay this invoice with this address, so I'm going to mark that address as pending, and there's no way to do that with the Dash core libs. Now with the Dash SDK that we've built, you can do that because it's completely open to you, but there's not a predefined structure of how to do it. It's very open. So the idea of the wallet address QR Explorer is a way to have wallet phrases and the accounts, the addresses, like basically be able to walk over a wallet and do everything that you can do with a wallet in terms of addresses and balances. So that I was trying to get to this point earlier, but I ramble. When someone's developing an application, we want them, including myself, yourself, We want them to be able to focus on the unique value of the application, which the address stuff is very blasé. It's not exciting. It's not interesting. Well, it is kind of interesting in that the only wallet that I've ever seen do wallets remotely according to the spec is Edge Wallet. You know, the Dash Mobile wallet doesn't do it. Dash Core doesn't do it. But the mobile Edge wallet actually does use some of the features of the wallet that are spec'd out, that APIs are available for. So, but there's some minutia there that we'd like to just say, okay, suppose that the wallet and the addressing and the balance mechanism works. Let me focus on the unique value and just have a little bit of a plug-in, like here's some addresses that I can plug into this to be able to use, or just be able to go back and forth with essentially a test wallet, but a test wallet that gives you really fine-grained control without a lot of tedium. Because you can, using the Dash console, you can do some of this stuff, but there's no available web utility for this. You can't use Dash Core from the web. You can't do a lot of stuff with Dash RPC because of the way that the Dash RPC directly, you can't use a wallet with that because the wallet is tied to the full node. You can't have individual wallets over RPC. Well, there is kind of a way, but then you have the whole issue of there's no authentication, the private key issue, etc. So you wouldn't want to expose a full node wallet to the web. That's just a recipe for disaster. Even if you personally don't put money in it, it'd be weird. So point is, have a wallet, but it's not all the features of a wallet. It's just focused around the addresses, loading it, swiping it, and being both an example of how to use the Dash SDK that we've created. So anybody could go in and look, oh, how did they do that? How did they manage the accounts? You go look at the code, you can see. And then a practical way to be able to use it with other applications. And one of the stretch goals that I put in there is that, if it's on the web, what do we like on the web? We like when you can just go click on something and it says, hey, do you want to give permission for this? Okay, right? So one of the things that I would want to integrate it with as an example would be the proposal site. Right now, the proposal generates a WIF. It's a one-off WIF, that has its dangers. It is saved in local storage, but just in general, anytime you're using a lossy wallet rather than an HD wallet, there's inherent risk there that's much greater than using an HD wallet. So the idea that you could have this HD wallet system in a web app and be able to click over to it and have the capabilities that allow you to manage funding and stuff like that via the URL, passing parameters via URL like any web application does. I think it certainly opens up opportunities, and I'd like to experiment that and see where it leads. And the way that I develop is I don't develop with, okay, here's the bullet point list of things that are going to be done. I approach with, here's a bullet point list of tasks that need to be accomplished, but not how they're going to be accomplished. And as I develop, it's an iterative process. And I realize, and I don't go, I'm an out of the box thinker. I'm not going in with preconceived notions. Well, because this other app does it this way, that's the way that it has to be done. I look at it more from a constraints perspective. Like, what does the protocol dictate? And anything that works in the protocol is allowed. So, for example, with the proposal app, if you want to bring that back up,
mm-hmm.
the protocol is way too loose because there was the problems with the epochs and the trouble that you could get into there where you could lose money. There was the problem with the transaction being sent before all the necessary verifications would have taken place, because the transaction was actually sent to get the ID to be able to test the G object rather than doing the other way around. So when I look at how does the protocol actually work, I come up with a very different product than, there's two other proposal systems. One that is, I guess, the command line in Dash Core, and another one is a web system that then builds up the command line for Dash Core, whereas this has no Dash Core. This is just direct via RPC. And because of that, I'm looking at it not in terms of date, because it's not done by date, it's done by block. And so as I'm going through it, it's like, okay, this is the natural way to do this. If you want to build some other abstraction on top of it, if you want to, fiddle with things, the library is very open in terms of how you can construct this. But this is kind of the natural result of, okay, I have to work with pay periods. It's not about dates, it's about pay periods. Pay periods are not about dates either. They're about blocks, but we need dates for users. So it was very I forget the word right now, emergent design, right? And I'm not saying that the design, the colors, the whatever is good, but I believe that the flow is generally good. You want to be able to view what are the pay periods, you want to be able to select number of payments, what pay period you're in, what amount. There's some things that have to be done here. Like the structure of this, I believe, is very, very good. And so with the wallet, it it's not something where, like, again, I don't believe in doing design first. I think it's a waste of resources because design is so expensive. I think that design in many ways is more expensive than development is. So you really want to have a really strong prototype before you go into design. So I can't show you like, okay, this is what the thing's going to look like. But what I can tell you is
The thing meaning the QR code application.
the address wallet. Yeah.
Address Wallet Explorer. So the proposal that you have up for 75 dash. So, but basically what people would see is they'd see an application that looks similar to this, but instead of it being focused around creating proposals, it's focused around, you might have some input boxes that let you select which part of the path you want to look at, which address you want to get for a specific path in the HT path, for example. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying, or
Can
what would
you
we
share?
be seeing?
Can you share my screen?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and share my screen. All right, so this is what I'm still working on with the CoinJoin stuff, and so like, the cash drawer. There's some other stuff we talked about before, but here's how I'm representing the addresses right now, right? So I need to be able to see these because I need to be able to debug them and stuff. And this is not the optimal way to do it, but this kind of gives me a sense of, okay, let me check which, this one was probably the one that had a transaction most recently. Let me go check that and see, did that match up what I was expecting? It allows me to debug a little bit. I've got this table that shows some balances and stuff. And this is really, it's built around the idea of how do I test the CoinJoin process. And as over the next week, this will get cleaned up and this will be released as a product. But it's not going to be everything I want in an address inspection tool. It's going to be the pieces that I need for CoinJoin. But you can see here I have a wallet. Here's where the 12-word phrases are. I can click reveal to reveal those. I can adjust the accounts. So I could say, let's actually work on account 5. You can see it updated there. It actually went and fetched the balances of the first several addresses of that. If I go into pools here, oh, interesting. Have to not do that. That's that's just a bug with the browser password manager. I'll have to find a way to work around in the future. It's the password managers are getting quite aggressive, and I've tried to label things as not a password, and it isn't respecting it. Anyway, and then here, this is showing how the CoinJoin nodes, what they're connected to, and they'll actually show multiple nodes, and it's going to show the pool denominations. But yeah, so I think that the Wallet Explorer is going to not be just one single page. It's probably going to be multiple pages, one where there's wallets and you can select a wallet, or I don't exactly know what it's going to look like, but it's going to have the ability to go through and change things like, the phrase, the salt, which account you're on. And if we do the Evo wallets as well, then we'll also support the Evo path rather than the standard path. So this is the standard path. Evo has its own bespoke protocol.
I mean, it's still following the spec, just not the BIP44 spec. It's following the more generalized spec of having a path that has different sections of the path, that each section of the path has creates different addresses. So yeah, I believe it's 43 versus 44 or something like that.
39. BIP
49.
Yeah, it's based on BIP 39, but it doesn't follow any of the existing standards uh, that have been implemented. So
I think
it's
the BIP 39 is something different, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I think that was regarding the passphrase, the seed phrases and stuff.
maybe it is.
But anyway, basically, what you're saying is there are things that are related to just a wallet specifically and HD paths that you want to create a separate application just for that. So you've basically been creating this digital
It's
cash
BIP
coin
32.
BIP 32. That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's the generalized specification for hierarchical deterministic paths. Um, so anyway, yeah, I want to be able to. I want people to understand that general concept. I know that it's going to be hard for a lot of people to see the value proposition, to see exactly what
I
you
mean,
are talking about.
I would just throw a trust me bro out there on this one. I mean, unfortunately, most people have not seen what I've done in the past because most of what I've done in the past was with anticipation that we were going to have these front end developers join Dash Incubator and then they were going to be building these front ends on top of the tools. And now I'm doing the front ends myself.
Mhm.
But I just throw out a trust me bro. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me because I don't know people that vote. I don't know if they follow Dash Incubator and I don't know. I don't know anything about the people that vote. But this is a tool that we need. We need to be every part of the SDK needs to be independently demoable and testable. And that the address part is kind of big because you've got the key generation, you've got the hierarchical paths, you got the QR codes. Each one of those, well, the HD paths are not simple, or at least the algorithm. The algorithm is not super simple. The keys are pretty simple, but each one of those have some components to them. But kind of put them together, and this is what the addressing scheme of the wallet is. We need that. We need to. It is surprising to me how many people that have worked in Dash for years do not understand primitives about Dash. And I think that as people understand the primitives better, it enables them and empowers them to better understand what they're building and what the wiggle room they have is, so they don't feel pigeonholed. Because if you just go off of what has been, you're going to create poor user experiences because you're going to, when you open it up so that you can see what the possibilities are and have a mental model of this is how A connects to B and how B connects to C, then that frees you up to be able to create better user experiences in general.
Okay, so in some ways, what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing from the applications that you have built and the applications that you want to build and the applications and tools that you want to build, in some ways, it's moving more in the direction of let's give developers the ability to see more under the hood. Whereas something like Dash Evolution and the mobile wallets that DCG is building is actually trying to go in a little bit of the opposite direction of saying, let's hide all that under the hood and let's give people a username and they don't have to know anything about what's going on underneath the hood. I think that the complement between these two is good. Like you want developers to have low level tools that they can know and know what's going on under the hood, but then allow then designers to create different user experiences on top of that, but without being able to have the debugging tools in the web browser. That makes it difficult, I think. So
Yeah, and this is something where I don't know. It seems like historically, when like people do stuff for free and they ask for money, they ask for pennies on the dollar. And so this is one of those weird situations where I could just build it and then hope to get reimbursed. But I'm very fearful of that because what I see from the proposal history, what I see, and I could, correct me, but what I see is the more vague with fewer details about what's being built and when it will be delivered, the higher likelihood something will pass. And the more concrete, the less likely something will be to pass. And I think that's just human nature. when we can hope for something, we can aspire towards something, we can't give a tangible value to it. But when we know exactly what something is, it's really, really hard for us to swallow that pill. And so I don't know if this is actually a good approach. I think logically everybody will agree, yeah, we wish that we could vote on things that are smaller, but I think that the reality of it may be that's not, it's the SIP test type of thing, or this has been studied psychologically a lot of times. So I don't know if this is actually going to work out, but I need to be able to get funded in order to do stuff. I would love to be able to say, hey, here are the things I'm working on, and this, let me deliver this at this price. This is the thing I'm going to deliver. But I don't know what the future holds. But there's a lot of stuff I know. Everybody knows this. Why did Stripe become popular? Why did Stripe become popular when it's the same thing as the other 12 payment processing APIs? Because they gave developers better tools to debug with and better documentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true. I hear that a lot from just my research and watching videos about traditional Web 2 development. And I do hear that a lot, that's why people choose Stripe, is because the API documentation is the best. And so that is,
but it's the same API. Like, to be clear, you go look at FluidPay or BankQuest or NMI, it's all exactly the same thing. They don't have any unique advantage other than that they just have better. They put a little. They were the first ones to put a style sheet on the documentation page.
Yeah, and I don't know. There could be lots of different reasons, but one reason is that they probably paid a bunch of had a bunch of VC funding that paid a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Really
there's definitely that, but NMI only just like this year or maybe last year, very recently, within the last year or two, NMI finally added a style sheet to their documentation, and it's a night and day difference. Now they look just like Stripe.
All right. Well, one thing that I didn't mention, but I wanted to circle back to, that you were talking about with the tool that you want to build with this proposal, the wallet QR Explorer, is the being able to see and derive evolution wallet paths. I think that I have heard in the community several people wondering like how they can get that information. So definitely could help people at least understand the difference between a traditional BIP
3244
path versus the new path that evolution uses. So being able to kind of understand that difference would be helpful.
Yeah, and we've done some work on a web SDK for Evo, and that part has been accomplished. This would be taking, we'd be taking some of that work and then bringing it to the web so that it's more direct. I think the smaller we can get, the more focused we can get on smaller tools, because we need to build products, but we also need to build tools, and tools help us build products. We can build products much faster when we have, when we're not bogged down in, some ginormous set of dozens or hundreds of things that need to get done. We could just focus on, okay, here's 2 to 5 things that need to get done in that realm, and be able to see, okay, this is what it looks like. This is how you explore that part. It helps you to be able to put it together. And then when you reskin it, yeah, I mean, for end users, now me as an end user, yes, I actually want to be able to get in the nitty gritty. I'd still like to be able to be able to view my addresses and stuff like that. That's really frustrating on the mobile wallet that I don't have the ability to mark an address as pending. But that's not like, we don't need to have all the options and shouldn't have all the options up front and center for the user. I think that for users, we should still have an advanced setting, advanced tab. I don't think that we should say, well, users are so dumb that we should never give them the ability to interact with their wallet in any way other than clicking this button or that button. But I do think that is Like, okay, what's the primary way I'm going to use the wallet? It should just open up straight to the scan. The primary way that I'm going to use it is I'm going to be scanning something, or I'm going to be sending a message to someone for a request. So
Yeah.
yeah, focus on the happy path for sure. But as developers, we need to be able to get in the nitty gritty so that we can develop the best happy paths, right? Because you cannot have a genetic evolution of user experience if nobody can figure out how to do anything except for one narrow way.
If
They need to
nobody
be able to
knows
explore it.
if nobody knows the fundamentals, the primitives of how you actually do this stuff, that is something that you're trying to expose to a general web developer audience. Where maybe maybe DCG has very detailed inner knowledge of how evolution works and everything, but we want to be able to give that kind of that knowledge and that understanding through these tools to all sorts of web developers, so that they can feel
Well,
comfortable.
and even they've pigeonholed themselves. Like they are not capable, without significant rewriting, of creating a better UX experience on the mobile wallet or Dash Core. With Dash Core particularly, because they will not cut ties with Bitcoin. They will not do something that impacts their ability to do merges back and forth. And I think that's sad, because we could have such a better experience. But they have designed their code not as building blocks, but as like a house where there's a door here and there's a door there, and everything that goes on inside is just a black box. And so even if they wanted to build a better user experience, they would struggle to do it, because they themselves have not designed with that in mind. And we've seen that over the years. Like, why does the mobile wallet not, there's things that come up over and over and over again. Why aren't they being solved? Well, because it kind of would require fundamental rewrite. And that's essentially what we've done, is we've rewritten, with the Dash SDK, we've rewritten the majority of everything that you can do with a wallet. But now we got to get that into UIs and stuff so that people can see it, not just as code.
Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about the existing proposal that you have up for this Wallet Explorer QR thing. Let's talk a little bit about other options, or just your general strategy going forward with. I know you have worked a lot with Dash in the past, and I personally see the value in your work. I want you to continue working for Dash. Maybe this QR Wallet Explorer thing isn't something that people want to fund necessarily. It certainly looks like that so far. But what other ideas do you have?
It's bifurcating, right? Because it seems to be reactionary, because it seems like it goes positive for a couple of hours.
It's a very small amount of the votes so far. So let's not read too much.
Okay, sure.
But because we still got, the majority of the voting period left, and the majority of the votes left. So I don't want to get too hung up on that, but I do want to highlight that your overall strategy is to give people what I think people have been asking for a long time, which is, we want more granular decision-making ability, and, having a proposal that's specifically for this thing or this thing or that thing. That should be ideally exactly what people want. So what other proposals do you have in mind? Or just more generally, what process do you want to follow as you, as Digital Cash Dev, are continuing to develop for Dash?
The truth is, I don't know, right? Like the ideal would be some sort of way to communicate, to get feedback, right? Because what I'd like to do is put up 10 proposals and say, okay, here's all the things I have on the docket. Y'all decide the priority. Because this is where the organization funding wins out over individual item funding. I will not be able to work for Dash unless I get funding, right? And I got to leave Dash entirely, right?
I don't think that you care necessarily what you're doing. You genuinely want to develop the things that the community wants. But you don't know what that is. And so maybe the strategy of putting 5 proposals up and saying, which one do you like best? Maybe that's what you should do. I don't know.
Well, there's a paradox of choice too, right?
Sure,
So
maybe it's
I
three.
can't put up too many proposals because people aren't going to take the time to read them or understand them, and I can't expect that of people. So I need to, there's got to be a bridge. Obviously, the something about the proposal I had up, which I thought it would be an easier one because it's such a small amount,
Mhm.
and even though I can't articulate super clearly what it's going, like I can't give you a vision of what it's going to look like because I don't know yet. I know that it's going to be a tool that's going to help anybody be able to understand addresses and work with them and have code snippets that they can translate into any application that they're building. I know that that will be the result, but what exactly the bullet points of that are, I'm not quite sure yet. I know what some of them are because of the work that I've been doing with Dash Proposal and CoinJoin and my CLI wallet and stuff like that. But anyway, but I don't know. So I might try a few more of these specific proposals and see if we can get some things to go through, because I need something to to go through. Basically, yeah, I've got some minimums that if I don't meet, then I just won't be able to work for Dash,
Mhm.
and that's just that, whatever. But I'd like to, and so there, one of the things that it seems timely that I'm going to submit a proposal on, and people might understand it, might get downvoted, whatever. I don't know. But, the zero SSL thing has come up again. And we know what the solution for that is. That's perfectly clear. I think the big issue with fixing it is that I don't think that the DCG people want it fixed because, well, I mean, we know that they don't because we've had these conversations in the past and they have, kind of done this, wiggle woggle thing with, like, oh, we want your help with this. Oh, well, like this is going to break. We need to do this. No, 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 no. We're not going to fix it. As you just do that. Like I I can't help you there. Like you're going down anyway. And now it's come up several times. People are seeing, okay, this zero SSL thing, like relying on a single authority for a bespoke protocol that is not an industry standard is not a viable solution, right? We need something that works on the web. The zero SL can work on the web, but the way that they've implemented doesn't work on the web. So we need something that works on the web, and we need to enable people to use both Dash as we have now, as RPC and P2P, as well as Evo. They need to be able to use it on the web, right?
Okay,
If they
and we
can't
did
use it on
talk
the web,
about
what is the purpose of all this?
we did talk about that a little bit in the beginning. We said we'd go into more details. So I think some people that are viewing might not know the difference and the distinction that you're making between the web and the internet. So like something might be available on the internet, but you're not saying that it's available on the web. So what do you mean?
Okay, internet is TCP/IP and UDP. Those are the protocols of the internet. So internet is just a super, super broad term. Like, flour is an ingredient and you can make a lot of stuff with it. You can make pizza with it, and there's a lot of different types of pizza, right? So the web is built on TCP/IP. That is the foundational protocol of the web, is one of the protocols of the internet. Well, and DNS. So the web dictates DNS, meaning names that you can type in a web browser, and that those names resolve the TCP/IP. That is the web. And in modern days, you can kind of throw TLS in there as well. I think that it's kind of fair to say that the web has evolved to, it's not that you would say that something isn't the web if it doesn't have TLS, but rather that TLS is a fundamental part of the web, that security layer.
Ah,
So that is the web. So if you're requiring people to deal with IP addresses, if you need to use, types of specialized certificates that aren't going to work in a web browser, like basically if it doesn't work in a web browser or people have to type in numbers, that's not the web.
mhm. So
So
what
something,
now that you've said that generally, what specifically, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much because it is a side tangent, but what specifically, just to wrap that thought up, would you be suggesting as maybe an example of something that you could propose alternatively?
well, it's not alternatively, it's in addition to, right? Because I'm not going to change DCG's mind. Like they're set in their ways. It's a matter of the voters. If the voters want it, or if the voters don't want it.
I meant alternatively to the proposal that may not pass that you have for the 75 dash for the Explorer. If you wanted to propose something else,
well, it's not an alternative. It's in addition to. It's in addition to, because I've got bandwidth to do both. But I won't be able to put the proposal up to get it done in a month simply because the budget's not there. Because I mean we have so much dash, but the free dash, what's left over after the the one giant request and its supplement is like peanuts, right? But yeah. So the solution is very simple. It's easy to understand technically. It's well known. There's libraries and standards and everything. We just take it's called S&I routing. So we need to give people, and this is something people ask for in Discord. I've seen this at least. People want to be able to have a domain for their Evo node or their master node. So they want to be able to have a domain, either one that they get automatically or one that they choose. They want to be able to get certificates automatically or have the option to choose the certificate. So, we just need some software that they can run that just sets that up for them, and then will take incoming web requests and then route it to their node. So, I mean, it's just essentially it's adding the names and the TLS is the core thing. Then what I've already done, we need to be able to expose the RPCs on the web. The P2P is an internet protocol. It's a public internet protocol. It's just not compatible with the web. And to get it compatible with the web is a very thin layer. I think I've got like 200 or 300 lines of code or something that make it compatible with the web. So we can get P2P on the web. And then some of the other protocols
and by that, you mean that the Dash peer-to-peer protocol, people can access that messaging protocol through the web, through the library that you have made.
Yeah. And then there's the gRPC stuff. We want to get that on the web. So that's kind of ironic because it's actually, if I remember correctly, it's basically it's JSON under the hood anyway, but then they added a layer on top of it to make it not compatible with the web, which I just get really frustrated about this. I mean, if you paid me $10 million to do something I said I was going to do, and then I made sure that I did lots of things, but that I specifically disabled the thing you asked me to do, I'm sorry, I can't talk about it unbiased. I'm just pissed about it. But
you're just saying gRPC. Let's get that protocol so that people can use it on the web instead of just
I'm talking about what they have done. That is dishonest.
Who's they?
What DCG has done with this. I'm frustrated about it because it's dishonest. It's dishonest to take all that money and to work on some pet project and to never actually release what was promised, which is we're going to have usernames for Dash on the web. I mean, I could be wrong. I thought that's what was promised.
Okay, so there's a lot wrapped up there. I can tell you've got disagreements with DCG, obviously. I have no problem with having disagreements with DCG. I think that's a healthy part of Dash, that people have different ideas and they bring those to the table and they see which ideas are better. I wish I could help people understand what's what's in your mind, because I know that it is a little bit difficult to express. But
it's just I've looked at the code. I've dealt with the protocols. I mean, we've had this back and forth over the last couple of years where and no, I'm not friendly. I'm not going to say, hey, kind sir, your magnificence, you write such wonderful code, but I noticed this problem. No, I'm the kind of guy that's going to come in and say, this sucks. This is irresponsible. Who's in charge of this? Please fix it.
I think we could have episodes on all these things.
But I don't want to do that.
Separate episode.
The core thing I'm saying is there's an easy path forward where we can work with what DCG has provided and we can enable it on the web. That's what I'm saying. And so that I don't know what I should call it so that people can understand it, because it's a very technical thing, but essentially it is something that allows them to have domains or they could still have IP addresses to have custom certificates or automated certificates that works with web standards. So Zero SSL is its own bespoke protocol. It's only provided by one provider. They are not like, whereas Let's Encrypt, the alternative protocol that most people are using, is there's several providers that offer it. It's you're not going to have the problems that like were predictable with Zero SSL, which is because they're the only provider of their protocol. Once they got enough users, they switch it to a paid only protocol. Like that was, that was obviously, that's what every company does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. But with Let's Encrypt is more like email, right? Like Gmail can't flip a switch and say, okay, you can't use email anymore unless you pay us. Because you could just switch to somebody else. There's competition, and that's what keeps Gmail free, right? So Let's Encrypt is an open protocol that I've actually implemented myself for some projects, not the server side, but the client side. And there's libraries in Golang to do this. And like we can get around every problem by doing some custom coding. I understand why I don't understand why they went with Envoy, because that one's kind of like a weird one that came out of nowhere. But I understand in general the idea of wanting to use off-the-shelf software. But what we're doing is so highly specific, and what our needs are so highly specific, and it's so easy to write this software in Go because Go has all the primitives. Like everything's packaged as a library, TLS is a library, Let's Encrypt is a library, everything's a library, and it's Lego blocks. It's not something that I'm going to put together in a weekend, but it is something that I'll be able to put together, and it's not going to be like, oh, you got to trust AJ's implementation of everything, because what I'm going to be writing is a lot of glue code and business logic. I'm not going to be implementing, or I'm not going to be inventing cryptography algorithms or anything. This is all standard stuff. And so we can take that and we can make it something that can be deployed super easy, that runs on top of the master nodes and the Evo nodes, that gives whatever, and have a checkbox interface. It'll be ugly. It'll be like the other interfaces that I've created, but have a checkbox interface where they can put in, like, yes, I want to allow RPC access. I want to allow P2P access. I want to, I want to, this is the domain name I want to use, whatever. And then one other component to that is that we do need registry services. And so what I'm imagining that this looks like in the best case is that we piggyback on the registry service we already have. So we have the MN list RPC. So let me share my screen and we'll bring this back over. Let's see. Let's share my screen again. There we go. We'll share my screen. So I'm going to go to the RPC Explorer real quick. And we can go to, what is it? Okay, there it is. Master node list. So I don't think I got to do anything there. So we'll go ahead and fetch this. All right. So this is the registry that we have. Now, actually, the address there, you should be able to put a domain name in here. There's nothing preventing that other than some arbitrary code that forces it. But it was designed, if you look at the source code, it's actually designed to handle domain names in there. So one day, if there's enough pressure from the voters, DCG will open it up, because there's no technical reason that they can't put the domain name in there. But anyway, so we just take from the addresses, from the IP addresses. From there, we can fetch a list of nodes that are running this other software that operates at the web layer, because this is down at the internet layer, and we need some sort of RPC proxy to access it. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, but I mean, same thing like DCG is already doing, where they provide a seed node list. We could also do that as well. We could provide a seed node list, and you could just piggyback off of the seed nodes, or we could pick some random out of here and try it. But we can get the list of the web, what master nodes and Evo nodes support the web, and then have them broadcast to each other, just like they do in the P2P network. We just do it at the web layer, and we just have them broadcast messages to each other saying, hey, I'm on the web. And you don't have to worry, I don't have to implement another blockchain or anything, because we already got that in here, right? So we can already look up and say, okay, any Evo node or master node can know whether or not another one is valid at the web layer, because they all have this list, and they can just validate that the web layer resolves to this correct address here, so it matches. And then you can look at stuff like, the public key operator address and the ProTX hash. So there you don't need to do like 10 million layers of validation, but you could if you wanted to. It's at the web layer, it's pretty much simple enough to say, if the nodes agree on what their names are and what their addresses are, and multiple nodes agree, then you're good. And even if they don't agree, okay, so what's the worst that can happen? You end up connecting to a node that can see some traffic.
Okay. Well, I think that we're pretty deep into a rabbit hole here with this.
Okay.
But I do want to I want to bring it back to I know this has been a bit of a hard episode to follow, especially considering the name that I gave this was creating a real Dash economy. I want to try to do my best to summarize the details that you shared and how that helps with bringing us into a Dash economy. And I think what I'm hearing is we want to be able to open up Dash development to the huge, broad contingency of web developers. And in order to do that, we need better web tooling. And that's what you want to help with. So bringing this blockchain world into the traditional Web 2 world is something that we should try to do. And you're trying to help do that. And it does get detailed. There are some details that we need to flesh out. But anyway, I've got kids coming in here, so I think we're at about an hour anyway. So let's wrap it up. Any final thoughts, AJ?
I don't know, man. I work down at the technical layer. It's really hard for me. I don't know how to do this stuff. Like I was really glad when you were, managing the funding issue, because that's not where my skill lies. I'm not a politicker. I don't know how to navigate the proposal stuff, but I know what we need to do, like on a technical level. And if I knew who the audience was, that's the other thing is, if I know that, you're a mom that works in banking, or you're a dad that works construction, or you're, somebody who works in finance, like I can speak to somebody in a level that they can understand. But when I don't know who the audience is, I ramble way more than I do otherwise. Cause how do I present this information to somebody in a way that they can understand? What is the information they want to know? How do I say it in the way that they best understand it? So having to go direct to the proposals, it's cool. It's cool to be able to do it, but also it's a little frustrating because, I don't know how to communicate this stuff, especially when we're talking protocol layer stuff. And, are you going to believe me, or are you going to believe DCG? They're going to tell you, no, we don't need to do this stuff. No, we don't need it on the web. No, and I'm saying, no, we do need it on the web. And there is a path forward to put it on the web. And they're saying, no, we can't put it on the web because there's all these reasons of saying, you know what? Like those, we can put it on the web, and there's easy ways to get around the problems that have traditionally prohibited it from being on the web. We have to make some concessions short term, but it's all about stepping stones, right? You don't just erect a skyscraper. You have scaffolding, and you build floor 1, and you build floor 2, and you build floor 3. And in the beginning, it's like, oh man, I can't put an office on the 18th floor because it's not built yet. Well, yeah, but if you build the first floor, you can get to the second floor. Like there's a clear path to be able to have everything on the web and still meet the goals of the verification, the decentralization, the distribution, etc. We just got to take those first steps there and work towards it. And so that's what I'm hoping for.
All right. Well, I think that for you viewers, you may see some more proposals coming up from AJ, Digital Cash Dev, and I'm going to do what I can to help present those. And I'm also going to try to find additional developers. But like we've said today, it is difficult to attract web developers without good web tooling. So,
and the ramp up time is so long right now. We definitely can get it better.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And yeah, until then, bye.